bent. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the foe in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the foe in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
And we are back. This is another episode of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. We're a little bit late. I apologize for that. But we are here. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get started. So sometimes you say things and they become the standard or normal to the point of you're not supposed to ever question them. But I wouldn't be me if I didn't question things that I think are valid. So one of my crazier opinions I had earlier in life and very early on in this, even before I got on the microphone, was that in the middle of the Patriots dynasty, so let's use the Randy Moss years through the two tight end years. They didn't win any Super Bowls. They went to two, obviously. These are very famously the Giant Super Bowls. And at a point, I was wondering, why are we still giving Belichick all of this credit? Now, this isn't even with we started to tear up Belichick's legacy once him and Brady split up. I was starting to question Belichick during the actual run. And that's because something just didn't make sense to me. Why are we giving Belichick all this love when the Patriots' offense was still great? Moss, Welker, the two tight ends. But their defense was getting worse. And in my head, I was like, well, isn't Belichick a defensive coach? So wouldn't his contribution to the team and what makes him great and what shows he's one of the best head coaches of all time and was on his way to being the best head coach of all time, that the defense is amazing? We give him extra credit for the Super Bowl against the Rams, both of them. The one where the Jared Goff, Sean McVay Rams where he held the 3 points, and the greatest show on turf Rams. I was like, isn't this just a Tom Brady thing then? If their offense is still great and they're still winning games, they're still going to the playoffs, but the defense isn't performing, isn't that on Belichick? And I was always told, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. That's Bill Belichick. How can you question him? Are we getting to that point with Andy Reid? Look, I did my coaches ranking before the season started and Andy Reid was number one. I'm not taking that away from Andy. He's the best head coach in football because his resume says that and he deserves that, is what it is. But the last couple of years, we've kept asking, what's wrong with Mahomes? What's wrong with Mahomes? What's wrong with the Chiefs offense? Why are they no longer explosive? Oh, well, it's because Tyreek Hill's not there. It's because Travis Kelce's not in his prime. When do we get to ask the question, has Andy Reid just lost his fastball? Is Andy Reid no longer the so far ahead of the league offensive genius that he was when we first saw this dynasty start to take place? And no one's saying he's a bad coach. No one's saying he's not a great coach. I'm just simply asking, when are we allowed to ask that question? When are we allowed to question Andy Reid? Because here's the thing. You know who's actually been the best coach on the Chiefs staff the last couple of years? It's been the defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, who people just refuse to hire as a head coach. And that's, again, part of this reason why this dynasty has lasted so long, is that they've been allowed to keep their DC because, again, teams just don't want to hire him as a head coach. But the Chiefs' defense has been the best part of this team. So then wouldn't that make Steve Spagnuolo the best part and the best coach on this roster? Remember when Eric Bieniemy, and I stood up for Eric Bieniemy a lot more than I feel like a lot of other people did. A lot of everybody else, when it came to Eric Bieniemy leaving the Kansas City Chiefs, there was a lot of, it doesn't matter, Andy Reid's the play caller anyway. We're now 2+ years into subpar offenses. Did Eric Bieniemy really have as little an impact as you guys all tried to tell me? Again, Andy Reid's a great coach. We know that. But if you're not, you're obviously still have team success. But if your thing, which you're responsible for, which you're in charge of, is the offense, and people have questioned Mahomes. People have said Mahomes is no longer quite the guy. He's not throwing the deep ball. He's not creating the light show the way he used to. So we're allowed to question the quarterback, who's one of the most talented quarterbacks you've ever seen. A lot of people already have in their top 2 or 3. Am I allowed to question the head coach, who's in charge of the offense? If every other team, when the Bills lose in the playoffs, what do we do with Sean McDermott? Well, your defense got lit up and you're a defensive head coach. That's on you, because we all have this belief and knowledge and understanding that Josh Allen is so great. Why is your defense getting torched in the playoffs? If the Ravens were to lose, you know what the Ravens almost never lose on? Special teams. If they were, I guarantee we'd go after Harbaugh, because what's Harbaugh's background? It's special teams. We do this with every other coach throughout the history of the NFL. And like I said, I did it with Bill Belichick. When the Patriots had a great offense and Brady was out there throwing it for 4,500, 5,000 yards, Moss, Welker, the 2 tight ends, the offense was amazing. Defense started to take a step back. It was no longer this dominant defense that we had known and become accustomed to seeing under Bill Belichick. So when do we get to start questioning Andy Reid? And I'm obviously not saying the Chiefs should get rid of Andy Reid. I'm not saying the Chiefs should look to move on from Andy Reid. You should let Andy Reid be there pretty much as long as Mahomes is there and as long as he wants to coach. I get that. He is in a unmovable position. But just because you don't move on, is it not fair to just question a little bit? Is it not fair to ask, shouldn't your offense, the offensive genius, the guy that we designate, a lot of people have designated the greatest offensive play caller in the history of the sport? And isn't it interesting? We're not seeing these. The Chiefs got very famous there for a couple of years of these fancy plays. The ringer on the rosy against the Raiders, the trick plays on offense, the shovel passes on the goal line. It's all this little cute stuff. And then suddenly, as their offense has gotten worse, we're seeing less and less of those play calls. Again, that's an Andy Reid thing. So again, I'm just here to put the question out there. And again, I'm not going to do, I said this yesterday and I mean it. I'm not going to kill the Chiefs or say the Chiefs are finished at 0-2. I just don't believe that. I might have a hate train for the Chiefs, but I can be fair sometimes. 0-2 is not a death sentence for that team. Now, I said, if they make it to 0-3 or 1-3, either after the Giants game and the Ravens game, then we can start having a conversation. I think 1-3, 2-4 is absolutely on the board. And then we can start discussing the quote-unquote total downfall of the Chiefs. But before we get there, let's look around. Let's use our eyes. Let's think about it. Andy Reid doesn't seem to be quite the genius that he was a few years ago. Just asking the question, man. Moving on to another coach. Did you know North Carolina's 2-1? North Carolina football. So, North Carolina football, obviously, we know the story. They hired Bill Belichick. There's all the stuff that happened during the offseason. And I said it's justifiable because, Bill, you're going to get one of two things. And they've already gotten one. You're going to get... Now, I don't know if North Carolina as a football program is going to be able to recruit enough talent because of Bill's not Dion. Bill's not a Nick Saban as far as old school recruiting. And so were they going to have enough talent to win at a super high level? I didn't quite think that was possible. So then the next thing is you're going to be talked about and you're going to sell out tickets. Now, the selling out tickets has happened. North Carolina sold out a bunch of tickets. I think they sold out their season tickets before we even got to game one against TCU. When they got blasted by TCU, and everybody was talking about Bill heading up into that game. Everybody was talking about Bill. They get blasted by TCU. I haven't heard a word from mainstream sports media since then. Bill does not have the kind of juice. Bill isn't. Two things can be true. Same thing just about Andy Reid. Bill is an obvious all-time legend, the greatest coach in NFL history. You could run down his resume, his superlatives. They're all going to be the best, the greatest ever. All that is absolutely valid. But where is there's no juice left with Bill. When Deion was at Colorado, and yes, they beat TCU game 1. Even when Colorado's first season went bad, they were talking about Deion in Colorado every single week. They were in the news. They were in the mainstream sports media. And so when it came time for recruiting at a future date, you know there was always going to be eyes on you because Deion had an under 500 Colorado team. People were talking about it. People were viewing the games. People wanted to see him. Celebrities are coming to the games. I haven't heard a word out of North Carolina, with the one exception being he's not allowing Patriots personnel to go scout. That's it. All that stuff during the offseason, all that stuff leading into week 1, and we got one story that they tried to put under the rock post week 1, that week 1 game against TCU. Where's the juice? Where is the excitement for North Carolina? If you are a prospect, because Bill's not running a fun program by any means. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes Bill Belichick is running a fun program in North Carolina. We're going to go there, have a great time. You might learn stuff because he's the greatest defensive mind in the history of football. But these are still 18 to 22-year-old kids. They either want the exposure or you either need the incredible chance to win, which I don't think they're going to have because they're not going to be able to recruit like the other big-time programs, or you need the exposure that you're going to get from being there, or the weird, and this only happens with a handful of coaches, the almost guarantee that this school will get me to the next level. This was Nick Saban's thing at Alabama forever. Nick was never running a quote-unquote fun program. Nick was never the super media or super exposure guy, but you knew if you went to Alabama, the chances you were going to go to the NFL were much greater than almost any other school in the country. And again, they're 2-1, and I haven't heard a word since week 1. Something to keep your eyes on. Again, we started a little late, so when we start at the top of the hour, Will's going to be joining us here shortly at the top of the hour, and we're going to be discussing Caleb Williams, Chicago, all that good stuff. I love the city of Chicago. I like Caleb Williams. I'm an ally, I promise. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. Will's going to be joining us here in a few minutes. So, again, I said this. I am a Caleb Williams fan. I picked the Bears to make the playoffs. I like Caleb. I have spoken very highly of the draft class from last year that I truly believe we're going to have 6 quarterbacks who get second contracts with their teams. And so, with that being said, there was something I heard the other day that this is not my take, but I thought it was interesting. And that was, what if Caleb becomes Trevor Lawrence? And the idea here is that we all agree year one, Caleb, Trevor did not have good head coaches. Trevor had Urban Meyer. Caleb had multiple head coaches, but starting with Matt Eberflus. Fine. We can throw that away as far as year one with a bad head coach. You're a rookie. You don't have the right people in place. Totally understandable. That's absolutely fair. That's absolutely valid. But then what do we see going forward? Now, Trevor Lawrence, obviously, he has the 1 year where he made the playoffs, had the great playoff comeback, and maybe that's what Caleb will do this year. We'll see the playoffs. Again, that's what I predicted. So far, they're 0-2, not off to a great start, but I still believe they can rally, make the playoffs, and let's say he gets a playoff win in year 2. But then, since then, with Trevor Lawrence, we've seen not stellar play, some injuries, a situation. Now, with Trevor, and what might be valid with Caleb too, is the franchise just not able to get out of their own way. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, you could still call this stupid, but them not having a cart is one of the most dysfunctional things I've ever seen from a professional sports franchise. And ironically enough and sadly enough, Joe Burrow, who just got hurt this last weekend, they also didn't have a cart for him. Ironically, this is in Cincinnati playing against the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. Maybe they wanted to make him feel good. I mean, they didn't have a cart. We're not going to get a cart for our guy. But you pay someone $250 million, you should have a cart in case they get hurt. I know, incredibly hot take. If Caleb goes down the same trajectory as Trevor Lawrence, who are both considered to be can't-miss generational prospects, guys who Trevor Lawrence was talked about the same way Arch Manning's currently being talked about in college football, where he was going to be the number 1 overall pick from the day he stepped onto Clemson. Caleb, again, once he became himself, was talked about he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. Are these guys, though, are they one of the things about being the number 1 overall pick, being the guy, is you're going to have to go to a bad franchise. And are you good enough to pick up the bad franchise? Joe Burrow, who just got hurt, clearly was. He went to Cincinnati. Nobody thought Cincinnati was a great franchise by any means. Gets Cincinnati to the Super Bowl in year 2. Incredible. Andrew Luck goes to the Colts. The Colts, who, yes, are a little weird because they had all that success with Manning, but Manning obviously had the surgeries, and we put so much on them, or we put Peyton Manning was such a large part of the success. We're like, okay, are they a good franchise, or do they just have Peyton Manning? So when you're the number 1 guy, you're going to go to a bad team. That's how it works. Are you great enough to lift up the bad team? And so that's what I want to see with Caleb. And so, yes, is Jaden Daniels, it looks like because there's such a massive overhaul, and maybe this is the unfair part, that the Washington team he went to was not dysfunctional, gets him to the playoffs. Bo Nix also goes to the playoffs. Sean Payton, the Broncos, the Walmart organization, like much more stability, better organization. And Caleb has performed better than the other guys, mainly because Penix and McCarthy haven't played enough, and Drake May has just been a little less than good. I like Drake May. I think he's going to be fine. But the reality is, on what we've seen so far on the field, he's just a little less than fine. So Caleb, at worst right now, is the 3rd best quarterback. But the reality is, even though those other 2 guys, you can argue their situations are better, and J.J. McCarthy's situation's better, and I even think Penix and May's situation's better. Caleb might have the worst situation of all 6, but that was always going to be the case for a number 1 overall pick. And my little bit of pushback and negativity was, last year, that wasn't the commentary. This might be how it played out, but the commentary last year when Caleb Williams is going to be drafted was that he's going to look at the receivers, look at the situation, the defense, like this. There were people legitimately saying this might be the best situation ever for a number 1 overall draft pick. And so I wanted the consistency. I wanted people to actually have to if you're going to say this is such a great situation for number one overall pick, I want you to have to stand on that, and I want you to have to follow through with that. And if those other situations are better, that's the reality of a number one overall pick. You don't get to go to a great situation. And again, I still think the Bears are going to make the playoffs. I still really like Caleb Williams. And with that, City Chicago, do not hate me. I come in peace. We even got representation. They was on my ass last week, man. I gotta reach out, make sure everything's good. Like
that's a DEI hire, y'all. He bullshitting.
Like I said last week, I like Caleb Williams, man, and that's still it was the truth then. It's the truth now. It is what it is. Hey man, y'all see him, y'all know it. My brother is in the building. Will is here, standing in at 6 foot, 213 pounds. That's what, like light heavyweight.
Heavyweight, anything over 200.
That's great. I can't get into this again, but that's just like I said, I just can't imagine someone 135 knocking me out. I'm sure they could do it, but like oh man. So let's start here, and I want to separate the team versus the player. So again, part of the Caleb Williams experience is that yes, there is more expectations on him than the other guys in his draft class. So even if my take last week was, if we don't see the improvement, the hype that he had coming into the league, you can't end that as the 5th or 6th best guy in your class. I'm not saying he's that now, because there's a valid argument. JJ hasn't played enough. Penix hasn't played enough. And Drake May, I think he's been better on. Drake May hasn't, in my opinion, Drake May hasn't even played enough. Your expectations versus what you've seen out of Caleb the first 2 weeks of the season.
So as far as expectations, I think my expectation, and we kind of talked about it last week, was just to see improvement on last year. We talked, I think I said that I would pick them to make the playoffs. I think you did also. But I also said, more than anything, you just want to see improvement over, from last year. And so far, I mean, I think we still kind of seeing some ups and downs. So, of course, last week in the first half, he was looking really, really good. I think 10 for 10 or something like that. Not against the Lions, but that week one against the Vikings. And then the second, so then in the second half, we kind of seen some ups and downs. And I think it's times now where we still seeing flashes, and we just hoping to kind of see it get put together consistently. And some of it, I don't know if it's a Caleb thing or if it's a scheme thing, as far as still just trying to learn the offense, get integrated into this new system with all the other players. So I mean, I think we see him, and we see that the talent is there. We see some really, really high moments. We see those flashes and things like that, and I think we're just trying to start to see it happen on a consistent basis.
No, it's the going back to week one. Like week two is kind of. Week two, in retrospect, is kind of one of those games you just throw out. Is like everybody was playing bad, and you don't really want to use that as like the basis for moving forward. Week one, the throw he did, like rolling out to his right, and he rifled it to, I think it was Rome, and it felt like it was like 100 miles an hour, and it was like that was a crazy throw. That's where you see the raw talent come out, and it's like, all right, there's only a handful of guys who could make that throw in that spot. Mm-hmm. Separating. Or at least in not just everybody, but the entirety of the team through these first 2 weeks. Obviously, there was a lot of expectation / hype is always kind of like a gray line, because if you start to get a bunch of hype, expectations kind of come with it, and vice versa. Is what you've seen from the Bears in totality. Obviously, they're 0-2. I talked yesterday. 0-2 is not nearly the same. The stat reads bad of like, only 12% of teams make the playoffs. But the reality is a lot of 0-2 teams are also just bad. I don't think the Bears are that bad. Again, like you just said, I had them making the playoffs to start the year. What have you seen so far from Chicago through this 0-2 start?
Inconsistency. Sorry, I had to move around a little bit. I just seen them not being consistent. Overwhelmed, and in this Lions game especially. So I think it gets interesting when you talk about like expectations. And I mean, even for me, I picked the Bears to beat the Lions going into it. I picked them to beat the Vikings. So I picked them to beat 2-0. But the Lions, the Lions, I think
Mhm.
We know that they're a better team, but I also know that typically the Bears play pretty good against the Lions. I think last year we may have split with them.
Yeah.
But this was a Lions team kind of coming back after losing both of their coordinators, kind of people wondering whether they would be able to still be good without their coordinator. So they kind of came out with
To
something to
hire a new
prove.
head coach, and that's again part of this reason why the Texans have lasted so long is that they've been allowed
I
to
mean,
make
and it's
moves
still like,
and have
Ben Johnson like is who he is as a coordinator. And I think Ben Johnson is going to be a good head coach, but I think
been
it's
the best
also
part of this
just
team.
a new head
You know what
coach,
I
a
mean?
new system, a young team as far as like some of his core players are pretty young and things like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I'm just glad I'm not like one of those fans that's just unrealistic. Like, I do have my expectations. I set my expectations, but it's like I'm also not in shock when maybe things don't go that way.
No, it's valid. I'd look, man. Never lost on a BS play, and like I was pretty mature about it in the moment, but I'm like one more of those games away from crashing out. But again, you have a much healthier approach to this than I do.
I think,
Um,
yeah, and I think just as a team, and even I guess with Caleb is like, I think as a fan, I just, and regardless of like the outcome of the games, I want to see him play good, and I want to see the improvement from him because you don't want to leave this season, you don't want to finish the season off saying like, oh, do the Bears need to draft a quarterback?
yeah,
So
no,
like
absolutely,
if things are
1,000%.
yeah, so it's like if things are if things may not be going in our favor as far as the games, but like Caleb is looking good and he's looking like okay, we know for sure that he's going to be the quarterback of the future. It's like I'm okay with that, like regardless of what the win loss totals are. But you just don't want the season to end, and then you got a bunch of people saying like, oh, the Bears need to go find a quarterback, or the Bears need to consider drafting a quarterback.
No, 1,000%. I think that's you don't want, and this is the worst case scenario. Obviously, you don't want to be in a position the Panthers are in, which is you draft Bryce Young with the first overall pick, who wasn't as heralded as Caleb, but still first overall pick as quarterback. And now, if Bryce doesn't get it together this year, they might be 2 years later going back in the draft for another quarterback, and that
Yeah,
sets your franchise back mad years. And any good players you had, like that shit goes. And to Caleb's credit, I do think it's kind of an odd conversation of what did he not do in week 2, or did he not perform? And it's like the defense they give it 52 points. Like at a certain point, it's like, man, look, the whole team played bad. Again, that's one of those games you just kind of scrap it and you're like, look, nobody played good. Get it back together. Let's keep it moving.
yeah.
I phrase this so I'm a very noted Chiefs hater. I hate all 3 teams in the AFC West besides the Broncos, but the Chiefs have been the most successful, so they get the most hate. They are 0-2. Now, nobody is going to flat out call them off or write them off at 0-2. And again, I don't think 0-2 is really a death sentence anymore the way it used to be. You got an extra game, and great players figure out a way to do it. So I do believe, like, you got Mahomes, that means something. If the Chiefs go, most likely beat the Giants this weekend to go to 1-2. But if they fall to 1-3, because the week after that they'll play the Ravens on Monday Night Football. If they drop to 1-3, I phrase it as, will you join me on the Chiefs hate train? And at 1-3, is it valid to say they might actually miss the playoffs?
At 1-3 for most teams, I would say yes. At 1-3 for Chiefs, I don't.
Close, man.
I mean,
gathering.
I mean, as far as like the Chiefs hate train, I wouldn't say I'm joining you on the Chiefs hate train.
Hey, 1-3, like, again, I get it. You got
Like the
Mahomes, you
Chiefs
got
don't
Andy
really
Reid.
like they don't the Chiefs don't impact me a whole lot.
That's a good life to live. Trust me.
Yeah, like they
Because
they not like they and I mean even if I think if the Bears were like good and in competition to like in Super Bowl talks or in like consideration to make it deep in the playoffs, I may feel differently. I'm not there yet. I don't have a reason to hate them. They're not stopping nothing for me at the moment.
that's valid. With a team that you could, do you feel? So we know you like Detroit, because you said before is like Detroit basically like that's your least, that would be the least despised other division team.
Yeah, those are our cousins.
Do we? There you go. Okay. Does it make you nervous as a sometimes, like, again, I've said I've been kind of trapped in the space of like Mahomes in the same division as the team that I root for. Puts you in a real rough spot. You just know most years it's like, all right, they got first place and everybody's kind of fighting for second. Do the Packers now give you that kind of feeling that the next 5 to 6 years with Jordan Love, the young receivers, Micah, the way the defense been playing to start this season, like, does that make you nervous going forward? Like, damn, they might turn into one of those teams that basically put everybody else fighting for second.
No, especially not Jordan Love. Shout out to him now. And it's funny, like, because it's like, I think, like, typically, like, as a Bears fan, it's like, you have, like, that disdain for, like, the Packers and, like, which I do, and, like, their quarterbacks. Like, I don't really feel a way about Jordan Love. I just don't think he's that good. Like, and I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not even saying, like, I can say Caleb is better than him right now or anything like that. But regardless of, like, Caleb Williams, I just don't feel like he's that good. So it's like, he's not, like, I don't spend, like, he ain't Aaron Rodgers, he ain't Brett Favre. I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about Jordan Love, to be honest. That defense, like, listen, I have the Packers defense in a few of my fantasy leagues. So, like, and that goes against a lot of things that I believe in, but I can't let my biasness cost me money sometimes.
See, that's maturity.
So I mean, I think the Packers are gonna be. I think they're gonna be good. I don't know if I have that. I don't know if I have that feeling about them yet. And not saying that can't change. And even with them beating Detroit in week 1, I still think Detroit is the best team in the division.
No, it's valid. Jordan Love, my problem is, like, he's too streaky for me to say, like, he's really, really good yet. Because, like,
yeah, and I don't even think he asked. Like, I don't think Jordan Love sucks by any means. I just don't think, like, he's not, like, he's just not somebody, like, if I'm listing off the Packers that I'm concerned with, he ain't on the list of, like, people I'm worried about.
He kind of gets grouped a little, and he can't really control it. It's the franchise he plays for. Like, because they went from Favre to Rodgers, and he showed some success early, it's like they automatically just assume, like, oh, well, you just the next one up, and it's like, no, you following up 2 future Hall of Famers. Like, there's no guarantee you gonna be that guy. Some kind of I'm there with you. I'll say this really quick before we get a prediction for the weekend. And I feel like this is the question all Bears fans are asking. And I feel like you've probably already answered this, but I'll phrase it. You play the Cowboys this weekend. And really just in general, like, going forward, would you rather it be lose 35-31 or start winning games 15-12?
I mean, I would definitely prefer the wins, honestly. Okay. But I would prefer the wins, but then I would also like to see us be able to put up points consistently. And, like 15-12, that's not putting up points consistently. But then, or even in that Vikings game, like we scored. I think we went into halftime 17-6. And then it was like a long time before we scored again. So it's like I would like us to just be more consistent on offense altogether, but I would definitely prefer the wins.
No, see, that's real. I respect that. There's a lot of Bears fans in the media who are like, no, we'll take the offense when it comes to the losses because they want to see Caleb. And I'm just like, hey man, look, Mahomes not even scoring like that the last couple of years. Like, if you actually want to see a team do well, you take the win. You don't really care how it looks at the end of the day. Other people might complain, but, like, at the end of the day, you want to win.
I mean, because if you go in there now, it would depend. I mean, it also depends on the teams. Like, all right, are you winning 15-12 against the Packers? Like, a team with a really good defense, or are you winning? Are you in like close games like that with the Eagles? Like, I don't want to see us in a dogfight with the Titans or some, or the Dolphins for that matter. Like, these teams that are not that good right now.
Right.
Like, yeah, so it's like I don't want to see us, in a dogfight with teams like that.
Nah, it's valid.
Or especially a low scoring dogfight. Like, now if it's high scoring and like something like that, and it's like, all right, the offense is cooking or whatever. That's and I think the reason that that Bears fans would be okay with those high scores is because if those scores are that high, that means Caleb is producing on offense and
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, the one thing that you don't want is to be leaving this season trying to figure out if you need to go get a quarterback soon.
No,
So
facts.
that's kind of those high scoring games will kind of help you say, okay, well, at least we good here. Now we just need to figure out defense or something like that. So I can understand. I can definitely understand that. Like, I mean, if you're a good team and you're an established team and you win a few games like that, like those close games, 15-12 low scoring games, that's one thing. But when you're a team that's supposed to be, I mean, even with the Bears, like, you know, this offense is supposed to be pretty dynamic. You do want to see the points get put up on the board.
Before I ask you about the score update, you want the Bulls to sign Kobe White for $30 million a year?
No, shout out to Kobe White though. I mean, I don't. I mean, it don't really matter. I ain't gonna lie. It don't matter what the Bulls do. Like, because
who is
we're not gonna get no free agents. We not like for us. We'll have to draft somebody. So it's like even Kobe White getting his money ain't gonna really. I don't necessarily think it's gonna impact anything because it's like, oh, if we suck and we get the first pick, then then we draft somebody who we would hope could be generational type of thing. But outside of that, like the Bulls ain't getting no free agents. So it's like you got to spend the money somewhere. If I'm
who is
being
like
if I'm being
the
honest.
Chicago team? Like, who is like the team if everybody's like, because obviously different people don't like certain sports, but there's always usually teams, especially like Chicago, which is a major city that has multiple teams. Like, who is the Chicago team? Like, obviously, like obviously like when MJ was there, like it would have been the Bulls. The Bears had a run there. Like, who was like the Chicago team that everybody fucks with? Because baseball, y'all are separated.
Yeah, I mean, more than anything, it'll probably be it's the Bears. I mean, and the Blackhawks.
Okay.
So like,
Yeah.
but I mean, the Bears is if the Bears were good, like
City's going crazy.
the city is going crazy. If the Bears are good, like the Bulls, like it's not saying that it's in like if they good, but it's basketball is just different. Like Chicago is really a football city.
Mm-hmm. No,
And I
fair.
mean, and I would even say baseball too, but not like if the Bears were good, you would kind of see like the way you talk about like some delusional fans now, like just not even Bears fans particular, but just delusional fans in general. If
Mm-hmm.
if the Bears were good, you would see like a ridiculous amount. Like I would probably like me being the way I am about the Bears is because I know they're not good. I would be completely different if they were good. So it's like, so it's like me being this way about the Bears is because I know they're not good, and it's best for my sanity for me to be this way.
Nah,
But
that's
if
valid. That's
if
valid.
they were good, like I would talk way more shit than I do now.
Nah, I believe it. The before we get you out of here, they play the Cowboys. Is it in Dallas or in Chicago? Looks like it is in Chicago.
Chicago.
Score prediction for that game.
You know what the bet lines are, what the
No, but I
let me
can get it
see.
for you here real quick. Let's see. Bears Cowboys spread. Cowboys and Bears spread. Right now, it's saying over under. Oh, Bears minus 1.5.
Mm, they got the point total set at 49.5.
Dallas's defense ain't been shit. So Dallas, like,
I mean,
if
no,
there
for
was a
sure.
game where you could be in a shootout, like, this feels like the one. I
I
got them
know
winning
Bears
mainly because
27-24.
I'm rolling with you because I want my prediction to be right. So I need them to start winning some games. Hey, no, man, appreciate you for stopping by. As always, don't forget you can check Will out on the Group Chat podcast. Excuse me. He down there. He breaking down boxing, talking shit, talking music, doing what he does as only he can, man. Appreciate you. We'll catch you next week.
For sure, man. Thank you.
And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for joining in today. So we're going to get into why would he say that. But first, if we're going to be fair, and I was critical of Caleb and his positioning, I got to be fair across the board, right? And so one of the games we didn't talk about yesterday was the first Monday Night Football game, Texans-Bucks. And Baker's been getting a lot of love, and he deserves that. He's been playing great. Tony and I disagreed on how Baker got here, but neither here nor there. CJ Stroud has to be better. I'm someone who was big on CJ Stroud day one. I tell the story all the time. The day he was drafted, DeMeco Ryans was the head coach. I thought the Texans were going to be, and this is them coming off of the season that got them the number 2 overall pick. I thought they were going to be good rather quickly, almost instantly. Now, they played the Ravens week 1 that year, and they got destroyed by the Ravens, but that was going to happen. It was the Ravens, rookie quarterback on the road. Cool. CJ had an amazing rookie season that before Jaden Daniels literally last year, we're all like, this is the greatest rookie season we've ever seen. He was throwing touchdowns, was turning the ball over. CJ was amazing, was great, made the playoffs. And to his credit, he has made the playoffs his first 2 years and has 2 playoff wins his first 2 years. But since year 1 ended, CJ has not been as good as he was as a rookie. Now, you could make an argument maybe he played above his level as a rookie because there wasn't enough film on him, or for whatever the reason you want to get real X's and O's technical about it. Maybe he overperformed year 1, but even with that being said, he is clearly underperforming most of year 2 and the beginning of this year. And even in those 2 playoff wins, they're very defensively dominated. Defensive touchdowns, 4 interceptions on Justin Herbert. CJ didn't have to do a ton to win those games. And it's not like he has crazy playoff numbers. And again, when it came time to playing the Ravens, it was competitive for about a half, and then the Ravens ran away from him. The Chiefs, it was competitive for a half, and the Chiefs ran away from him. And I feel like with CJ, we elevated him very quickly into these top 5, top 6, top 7. When you're in the moment, it's great to we all love to overreach in the moment. Because we're watching in real time and going, that's him. That's all he's ever going to be. He's great. He's great now. He's going to be great forever. We all do this. And CJ, during his rookie year, he was so good, we're like, oh, he might already be a top 5 quarterback, a top 6 quarterback. He was getting MVP predictions. Like, oh, can he get MVP votes? Could he be the MVP of the league in year 2? That's how good he was as a rookie. Since that rookie season, though, and really the funnier stat to go off of is CJ's games pre the speech with Caleb Williams and post the speech with Caleb Williams. Pre the speech with Caleb Williams, he was 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Great. Post Caleb Williams, he's 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. And that was that weird, hey man, there'd be a great QB in this league. And CJ is a devout Christian. He doesn't swear. He does all these things. Like, he is true to the character of himself, which sometimes comes off a little odd or weird. But he is truly, I don't think he's disingenuous. But it can come off a little odd and weird at times. Just he is, to a lot of people, over the top in these very, what might be seen as cornier beliefs. Again, the not swearing. He's not going out clubbing, partying. He's not the quote-unquote typical standard cool quarterback. And him telling Caleb Williams, who is only, we did this on group chat, he's only a few months older than, and kind of trying to talk to him like he's the veteran. It's a little weird. And again, you see the splits pre the Caleb Williams conversation and post the Caleb Williams conversation. And if anything, you have to at least ask yourself, was CJ starting to buy the hype? Was he starting to buy into, oh, I really am a top 5 guy. I really am a guy who's going to be in conversation for MVP. I turned the Houston Texans around, who were just a dumpster fire shit show just a year ago. I'm that dude. And now all athletes are supposed to have supreme confidence. 10 million%. 10 1,000,000% you should have supreme confidence as an athlete. But did he get a little too confident? Because overconfidence can kill you. There's a handful. How many of these reclamation project quarterbacks are probably a victim of overconfidence in their career, beginning of their career, and then they get humbled and they bring themselves back in. Sam Darnold, Geno Smith. That's Tony's argument for Baker. Like, you were so confident, which you need as an athlete, but you got overconfident, and now, due to your overconfidence, which hurts you in the beginning of your career, you get humbled. You have to go to a second team, a third team, and now you're trying to work extra hard. You're doing all these things that initially got you there before your talent kicked in. So we got to be fair. If we're going to criticize or be critical of Caleb, then we also have to criticize or be critical of CJ, who just flat out needs to play better. If this Texans team, who I think legitimately, the defense is flying around on Monday night. That's a legit top 5 defense. Again, stats are always one thing because your offense has to be good because your defense is out there too much. Your stats are going to look worse. Just eye test, that's a top 5 defense. CJ's got to be better because he has that top 5 defense. It's just the truth, man. I don't know what else you want. It's just the truth. CJ's got to play better. For my favorite part of the show, why did he say that shit? Why would he say that? So Colin Cowherd, who I'm a huge Colin Cowherd fan. Again, when I do these segments, it's not just to criticize people that I don't like. I will also, if I disagree with something said, even if it's somebody that I do like a lot, and I watch Colin every single day. Again, the whole point of this segment is I'm watching a lot of sports media, a lot of sports coverage, and a lot of it is bad. Some of it's really good. Colin's on the really good side. It's just I want to do it so that you guys don't have to, and then I can come let you know what is the craziest thing I think I heard the day before. And this wasn't maybe a big deal. And the way Colin does his show, this was kind of just thrown in there. But it just took me for a loop, especially for someone like Colin. And that was, he was defending that A.J. Brown, he compared A.J. Brown to an NBA player or an NBA superstar who doesn't get enough jump shots. That A.J. Brown is so talented, which he is. A.J. Brown's such a great receiver, which he is, that him not getting enough catches or enough touches because Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense, that's just not what they do. They run the ball, there's much push plays. It is not a high volume offense for receivers. And Colin brought up the point, A.J. played in Tennessee, which with Derrick Henry was not a high volume offense for receivers. It was Derrick Henry, it was run, throw occasionally. Then he gets the Eagles, and now the Eagles are even more than Tennessee with Derrick Henry, which is kind of crazy to think about. Run, not a high-volume offense for receivers. So he's like, I wouldn't be upset if A.J. Brown was like, or he says, I understand A.J. Brown saying, you know what, if he were to say, I want out. I don't. I can't get behind this. I also, as a side note, I think this same conversation, now no one said this besides the player specifically. I think A.J. Brown and Myles Garrett are in the same spot. Now, they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum. A.J. Brown is on a great team that can win a Super Bowl, just won a Super Bowl, could go back-to-back. Myles Garrett's on a team that might finish with the worst record in the NFL. Both in the last 24 months signed very large, lucrative contracts that at the time, Myles, at the time he signed, was the highest paid non-quarterback ever. And AJ at the time, now it got passed up almost immediately, at the time, signed a new deal with Philadelphia to be the highest paid receiver in the league. Once you do that, when you already know what it is, this isn't get drafted to a team and you're just forced there, or they're franchise tagging you, or, you know, like, we know how certain contracts, you're almost just stuck there. This isn't a stuck there situation. A.J. Brown signed a contract with Jalen Hurts being the franchise quarterback. He didn't sign it with, let's say, like, if he had signed the deal, if you want to go play around with history, go back in time, like, it wasn't like he signed a deal and it was when Carson Wentz was there, and then Carson Wentz gets hurt and we see that derail and then Jalen Hurts take over. And it's like, oh, well, this isn't what I signed up for. The other guy was a more volume passer. I got more touches. No, he signed a deal with essentially this same roster, the same play style, and the same level of success. That we are going to be a perennial playoff team who can get to a Super Bowl, who can win a Super Bowl, but it is a run-heavy team. Myles Garrett signed his deal. Like, Myles Garrett made a comment, and I don't usually go after players in this, but just to give the context, Myles Garrett made a comment saying, shit's embarrassing. And yeah, it is. But you knew the Browns weren't going to be very good. You knew you had requested a trade earlier in this offseason because you in your heart of hearts probably knew, Browns aren't going to be very good. And then they gave you the largest contract for a non-quarterback ever. I understand it got passed up right away, but at the time, that 40, I think he's at 41 million or 41 and a half, you took the money. A.J. Brown, you took the money. And again, when you sign in this is not, I was drafted and I'm stuck there, or I'm drafted and I got franchise tagged. No, both players said, I want to re-sign for this large amount of money, and we're not even a year out for both of them in regards to signing this contract. And I think in AJ's case, has just kicked in. This is the first year of it because he signed before his previous deal ended. Myles, the same. Well, Myles, I think, will kick in next year. You don't then get to complain, and this is my issue I think I took with Colin of why I don't understand why he said it. If you sign up to play on the Warriors during the Clay, Steph, KD, and you sign for $25, $30 million, you're the fifth option. Steph's going to get shots for you. KD is going to get shots for you. Clay is going to get shots for you. And Draymond is probably going to get shots for you just because he's a part of that core. So if you're the fourth or fifth option on that Warriors team, you go sign for $30 million, I don't feel bad for you. You did that. You know who hasn't complained? Like, when the Bucks signed, and the Bucks I think are going to take care of Baker. Baker has probably the best value for a contract in the NFL right now. The $30 million a year for a quarterback, for what he has produced, maybe one of the best values of the 21st century for a contract. Like, that's just how highly paid quarterbacks are, and so how underpaid he is for the position, and how productive he's been. Baker's maybe one of the best deals of the 21st century. But if you're A.J. Brown, you're Myles Garrett, like, look what Micah just went through, right? Like, their situations are so much different. And Micah, as much as Micah is talking about how much he loves the Packers right now and how great the culture is, I 1,000% believe that if Micah had re-signed with the Cowboys, he would say the same thing about Dallas. I 1,000% think he would. So, no, I don't feel bad or think A.J. Brown has quote-unquote, like, I hate using these kind of terms, but does A.J. Brown have a right to be upset with how the Eagles are playing? No, not really, because you knew who they were when you re-signed this deal. Again, this is essentially the same core of players. This is the same team, the same coach, the same quarterback. And the reason, why I brought up Myles Garrett is because even though it's not meant to go after the player, Myles Garrett could complain to high hell this year. And Myles Garrett's amazing. He's one of the best defenders I've ever seen in my life. We were just talking about him. He's in an S-tier class of elite defensive players. You signed up to be with the Cleveland Browns. Like, you requested a trade. You could have been out of here. And so AJ signing the deal, the 3 years for 96, and then now it's like, well, now all you want to do is you want to read books on the sidelines, or you want to complain, or you want to, say I'm not getting the, you lose that convo in my head. So I did not understand Colin going, yeah, I get it. I don't. You knew what you signed up for. This is HardFoul Radio. We will be back momentarily. And we are back. Close out the show here today. Again, sorry for the late start. Got to start 10 minutes late. So Joe Burrow's story's been out now, is that he's going to miss 3 months. The reality is he's probably going to miss the rest of the season. And that's unfortunate. Joe is a great player. Obviously, it pretty much just tanks the Bengals season. We've been lucky enough to only have, there's always injuries that mess up a season. 49er fans know this very well. They've got a bunch of injuries right now. Here's the thing. And Joe needs to understand this, and someone in the Bengals, just the NFL needs to understand this. The Bengals have, fundamentally why it's a problem is almost any team is screwed without their quarterback. We get that. This is also, though, a case of resource management gone wrong. The Bengals have so much invested in a salary cap sport between their quarterback and their 2 receivers, and this year at least their 1 defensive end, and have almost nothing invested in their offensive line, nothing invested in the rest of their real investments. I'm talking about star players, guys you're paying real good amount of money to be productive for your team. Again, quarterback goes down, almost every team's screwed. We get that. Investing in your offensive line when your quarterback is one of those guys should always be resource manager number 1. Even if you over resource it, if you're like, we're going to have too much money in our offensive line, I don't think you can. I just don't think you can. There's a meme going around, and it's kind of been attached to Joe Burrow since he got to Cincinnati and got to the NFL, that if they had drafted Penei Sewell instead of Jamar Chase, what would his career look like? Having a dominant offensive lineman and just being able to, if he's that great, turn any good receiver into great, any bad receiver into good into great into, et cetera, right? We know Jamar Chase is super special. But would it be worth it to have a dominant offensive lineman and 70-80% of Jamar Chase is another receiver? Because look at the other quarterbacks who are having great success. Lamar, his offensive line's great. Josh Allen got an MVP, not with Stephon Diggs, but when they heavily invested in the offensive line. Jaden Daniels, who had the greatest rookie season ever, what did Washington go out and do? When they got Laramie Tunsil. They understand what an offensive lineman, a left tackle, does for a quarterback. The Niners, during the majority of their run, what was one of their keys? Trent Williams. The Bengals haven't done that. Even somebody like a guy that nobody likes, and I'm not here to start arguments, but that nobody likes, and Bo Nix, Bo hasn't been sacked in 2 games. I'm sorry, Bo's been sacked once. I apologize. Bo's been sacked once. Wasn't sacked at all against the Colts. Has had, his jersey was orange to start the game, and it was orange to end the game, no marks. Having an offensive line when you have a premier quarterback, I'm not saying Bo's a premier quarterback, I'm just trying to get the point across, that is more important than having 2 great receivers, or a great receiver and a great tight end, or a great receiver and a great defense. The Bengals never truly investing in their offensive line is just bad resource management. It's bad draft analysis. And you're running this risk all the time of, we see it more and more because quarterbacks are extending plays at rates we've never seen. They're all trying to just slightly get out of the pocket, extend the play, because we've seen Mahomes do it, we've seen Lamar do it, we've seen Josh Allen do it, and now all these guys think they can do it, which is leading to more quarterback hits. Hell, even Baker took a big shot on Monday because he got out the pocket and felt like he could extend the play and keep it going. And Joe is a little unique because him and Stafford are probably the last, and Goff to a degree, are the last just stay in the pocket and rifle it guys, true pocket passers, but they don't flinch even when someone's going to come knock them out. We've seen the clip from week 1 of Myles Garrett doing a stunt inside and just running Joe Burrow over. And Myles Garrett is a large human, and getting hit by him like that would knock most of us out for weeks. And Joe has to take that hit and get up. You need good offensive linemen, great offensive linemen. You need offensive line play. You cannot just have, yes, do the Bengals have the best receiving duo in the NFL? I believe so. It's either them or Philly. And you're like, well, Philly has it, and Philly's got a great offensive line. There's only one Howie Roseman, man. Like, what Howie Roseman did with that roster is going to go down in the history books. And Howie Roseman can only do that because his owner's willing to write these really big checks up front for guys. And the Eagles do be really, really great for 3 or 4 years and then have one really bad salary cap year that you're going to be bailed out if you still have enough remaining talent. And that's the Eagles' plan, is they're going to have 1 year where they got to start cutting guys, they got to start moving around because they're not going to be able to afford everyone throughout the entirety of their contracts or the entirety of their careers. But you need an owner who's willing to write really big checks up front for that. Denver's doing something similar to this where they're paying a bunch of guys and the Waltz and Penner groups got enough money where they're willing to write these huge checks. Cincinnati doesn't have that. Cincinnati is a historically cheap owner. But his guys are, when you're a Burrow or a Stafford and you're just willing to stay in the pocket forever, and Burrows will extend plays. Like Burrow will get out a little bit and extend plays. And guys are across the league extending plays more than they ever have. Look, man, it's an injury and it sucks and it's brutal and you feel terrible for Bengals fans because it basically just tanks your season. But Bengals ownership, management, like you guys got to roster construct better. You just have to. You can't let Joe Burrow go out there and just get his head knocked off every single game. It's bad practice. It's malpractice, some would say. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. This is HardFoul.